Okay, so let's start with shark attacks, everybody's favorite. I just took up surfing about 3 years ago in San Diego, and I pray I never see anything like this. All right, as humans, we're just fascinated by shark attacks. You hear it, in the media goes crazy anytime anybody gets bitten or killed by a shark. This is Gary Larson's comic. It says shark food fights, and they're throwing scuba gear back and forth. And this is a famous painting hanging in the Boston Museum of Art with this shark down here at the corner getting ready to attack this person who has fallen in the water. So again, we are just fascinated by shark attacks, even though they are not that common. This is the largest shark, the whale shark. It can reach a length of about 50 feet, 40,000 pounds. And I had the privilege of swimming with not that big a one, about a 25-foot one, in the Sea of Cortez last year. And just incredible creatures. They don't eat humans. In fact, they are plankton feeders. So they just cruise through the surface of the water, sucking in the plankton. So there's only about 50 to 100 annual attacks worldwide, and less than 10% of those are fatal. So you have a better chance of getting struck by lightning than you do of getting bitten from a shark. 32 of the 350 species are implicated in human attacks. The most dangerous, of course, is the great white, but the mako, the bull, the hammerhead, the gray reef, the dusky have all been implicated in human attacks. As well as there's some sporadic attacks from some of the other ones, like the lemon shark, the black and white tip reef sharks occasionally will bite humans as well. But of course, everybody's favorite is the great white, made famous by the movie Jaws. It is the most dangerous of all the sharks and has a biting force of 18 tons per square inch. You'll find it off of southern Australia, South Africa, and then the third largest breeding ground for great white sharks is directly out off of San Francisco, out the Golden Gate Bridge to the Farallon Islands. The water temperature is right, and there's a huge seal and sea lion rookery there, and so that's where all their food supply is. So we do get shark attack bites, great white shark attack bites, along the California coastline. This is one of the famous cases from Monterey of a surfer who was out and got bitten by a great white shark, and they know that because they found teeth in the surfboard that they could identify as great white teeth. This is the wetsuit that he was wearing, and this was him. And this is kind of classic of what great whites do. They go along the bottom, cruising along, looking up, and if they see an injured seal or something that looks like their prey, they'll come up out of the bottom and grab and bite. Sometimes they'll just bite and leave and then come back later with their prey dead. Other times they will bite and then drag and eat at the same time. This is a map of California, the confirmed unprovoked shark attacks from 1926 to 2008. The red areas have 10 or more shark attacks. The blue area is a little less, and then the green areas are less. And you can see San Diego's down there in the red as well. It's kind of Monterey, Marin. Again, Marin's right above San Francisco, so you would expect great whites to be up there. And these are the number of fatalities. And again, in California, 97 total attacks. 8 of those were fatal. Again, less than 10% of shark attacks end up being fatal. The latest one is actually right in San Diego, just north of Del Mar in 2008, was a great white attack. And this is one of our residents who was flying on Mercy Air that day. So you can always get pictures from your residents. It's a good reason to teach them. But anyway, this is the beach. It was a group of triathlon swimmers that were just swimming right beyond the breakers, so probably about right here. And 2 of them had kind of fallen back, and this guy was the very last one. The rest of the group was ahead. And the shark came up, bit him in the legs. He was still alive when some of the people turned around, other people swam and got out of the water. A couple people turned around, got him, dragged him in. By the time he got to shore, he was unconscious because he basically had just bled to death in the water. And even the paramedics reported when they started doing CPR on him, there wasn't even any more blood coming from his extremities because he pretty much had exsanguinated. This is what his wounds looked like. It got both of his lower legs, just a huge biting force. Some more close-up shots showing just the depth, almost severed both of his legs off. You can see the teeth marks here, just kind of that ripped his wetsuit. Again, a non-survivable injury went right through all of his arteries, and he basically just bled to death before he even got to shore. In terms of shark bites, it's just trauma. You're dealing with tissue loss, hemorrhage, shock, death, and then if you do survive, there's a very high propensity for infection because there's all sorts of bacteria that live in the shark's mouths that can lead to infection. This is a young girl off of Sarasota, Florida, who was just floating. She'd gotten off the boat and was just floating on her back and got bit by a 7-foot bull shark. And it pretty much, the teeth kind of went into her ribs and her pelvis, which saved her because they didn't go into her abdominal cavity. So she ended up doing well. In terms of treatment, again, just trauma. ABCs, control bleeding. Most of these wounds have to go to the operating room and be explored. They all need to get put on antibiotics, and again, tetanus because of the marine environment. This is Rodney Fox. He was spear fishing in a competition off of Australia. So he had dead, bleeding fish hanging off of him and around the water, and got bit by a great white. He had a hemopneumothorax, and obviously it penetrated into his abdominal cavity. And his buddies who were right there kept him in his wetsuit, which probably provided a little bit of tamponade to him. And he survived, and he now is a big proponent of protecting these animals and taking people out to see the great whites. He doesn't spearfish anymore, fortunately. So in terms of prevention, how do you not get bit? If you know there's sharks in the water, stay out. Sharks like to cruise around at dusk. They like turbid waters. They like deep drop-offs and channels. That's kind of where they'll cruise around in the depth before coming up to strike. Don't disguise yourself as a pinniped. Don't look like a seal. We all get in with these black wetsuits and splash around on the surface. Don't act like you are injured splashing on the surface, because, again, that's what they eat, and that's what they go after. Don't go swimming if you've got spear fishermen in the water and they're dragging dead fish through the water. Don't swim with animals in the water because that's attractive to them as well, and that's splashing. And then if you've noticed that you're swimming or diving and the fish start behaving real erratically, or they're porpoises and they cluster really tightly together, that's a clue that there's probably a shark in the area because that's their protective mechanism. All right, and now that none of you are going to get in the water at all after our shark attack pictures, just remember this. Your chances of being bit are infinitesimally small. If you are worried about your lifespan, stop smoking, don't drive cars, never walk across the street, and do not fly in an aircraft. Remember, there are very few shark attacks worldwide. Less than 10% of those are fatal. And again, you have a much better chance of getting struck by lightning than you do by getting bit by a shark.